Lovely. Well, it's great to be back here again. We actually had a pitch here yesterday, so we'll try to change things up for today's session. But before I start, I also want to give a shout out to my wonderful team members in the crowd, Gassia and Oljan. If you want any more information on WeWalk after this speech, then please feel free to drop by our booth and you can find out more. So, well, what is WeWalk? So myself, our visually impaired team members, and over 253 million visually impaired people worldwide have had to rely on simple tools like a standard white cane to get around. It's an incredible tool. It's a symbol of our independence, but we could do so much more with the right technology. And it's exactly why we invented the WeWalk Smart Cane to get visually impaired people from point A to point B safely, effectively, and independently. Here's one we've prepared earlier. It's actually my own unit. It's very simple. WeWalk clips onto a standard white cane and has all the tech bits inside. It's got an ultrasonic sensor to provide haptic obstacle detection for things like low-hanging tree branches and signage, which a bottom of a cane will typically miss. But where we go further is with our patented connectivity to our WeWalk smartphone application. So again, with that built-in touchpad, speaker, and microphone, you can talk to WeWalk, it'll talk to you, and it'll give you things like head 50 meters and take a 4 o'clock right turn where your bus will be waiting for you in 4 minutes. You know, a navigation experience that us as visually impaired people have never really had before. And while we were developing WeWalk, we kind of accidentally built one of the most accessible navigation apps on the side as well. So the WeWalk app itself isn't just accessible for people that are blind, but also for people who are low vision. So with high contrast, large text sizes, and full voiceover and talkback compatibility, you can use both the cane and the app individually or simultaneously. And it's because of these efforts that we've been recognized through a Time Best Invention. We were Amazon Startup of the Year, an Edison Gold Award winner, and even an honorable mention by the Fast Company. But one thing we're actually very grateful for, and I guess this event is another example of this, is the light that we've managed to cast on assistive technology by organizations that typically wouldn't talk about visual impairment. So people like Bloomberg, CNN, and Fox coming to us and saying, hey, look, if you give visually impaired people the right technology, we can be truly independent. We can overcome those social barriers. That's something we really want to keep pushing for as we keep developing our products. And it's exactly what our board and our investors want. So our lead investor, Nesta Impact Investments, has it in the name. It's impact investment. We want to have that impact. That's the same for King's Health Partners. Again, the first NHS-backed VC here in the UK. They want to make sure that we're helping the right people at the right time. But time and time again, as we've developed our product and as we've reached our users, one common complaint keeps on coming up, which is airports. As a visually impaired person, we feel like baggage oftentimes when we're at airports. We have to go to the special assistance desk, and we're then chaperoned all the way to the gate. We don't get the chance to drop by duty-free or to have coffee or to be autonomous or independent, but often we have to get to that gate as quickly as possible because the agent assisting us has to go back and collect the next visually impaired person. And that's exactly where the idea from WeAssist came from. So with WeAssist, using both the Smart Cane or just your smartphone app, you can connect to a professionally trained sighted guide whenever you need them. They can find your location through WeWalk, and by either attaching your phone through a lanyard or by holding your phone up, they'll see where you're going and then can provide you with the guidance only when you need it. So for instance, if you only need guidance for 5 or 10 minutes in the airport, which is what most people tell us, you can get the guidance when you need it without having to have someone walk with you. And the data really backs this up. So guide dogs have told us that 1 in 5 people have missed their journey because they weren't able to get the right assistance. And the RNIB told us that over 96% of visually impaired people wanted to walk independently. And since we launched this system in Turkey, across 5 Turkish airports actually, since last year, we've seen more and more users using our service. But more importantly, we've seen more of these users making more calls, which means the system is working better and better for them. And not to sound capitalistic, but the visually impaired market really is substantial. We have 253 million visually impaired people in the world. We've got 2 million in the UK that's going to double to 4 million by 2050. And unfortunately, we're not curing visual impairment anytime soon, as much as I wish we could. So we have to make sure we equip our community with the right tools. And we hope with this program, the CPC, and what we're doing with WeAssist, we're one step closer to realizing that. Now, partners mean everything to us. We're not on this journey alone. We want to make sure that as many people in the world can get hold of WeWalk as quickly as possible. And it's why we've partnered up with organizations like the CNIB, the RNIB here in the UK, Vision in Australia, and, well, Australia. So we're trying to get that worldwide reach to make sure that everyone can get their hands on a WeWalk Smart Cane and the WeAssist service. So we're lucky to have Gatwick on board to trial the WeAssist service in the first controlled pilot. And we want to be very careful with this. We don't want to just ship it and break it. We want to make sure we test the system understand how it goes wrong, and we'll try to ameliorate it and mitigate those risks. So we're currently at phase 2. We've been at the airport with the RNIB. We've mapped out every corner of the airport, which is a very interesting experience. And now we're moving on to phase 3 and phase 4, which is actually getting users into the airport, testing with RNIB's own agents, their helpline team, to make sure that we can position the user within the airport from the document guides that we've put together. And the impacts for this, while I hope are quite obvious, not only are we improving visually impaired passengers' lives, we're just providing a better passenger experience, better access for the airport for visually impaired people to access things like duty-free, and of course, helping the government, airports, and other spaces meet their equality targets. And well, hopefully, through this session here, we'll be able to meet more people who can help us in developing our system and to help more visually impaired people across the world. So thank you very much for listening, and I'll move it on to Q&A.
Thank you very much. Joe, Marc, if you want to join me down here.
Sure.
So I'll put it out to the floor. Does anyone have any questions here? And we'll get a mic over to you if anyone has any questions on the floor here now. Yep, we have one over there.
Hi, it's Sunil Badeya from Coventry City Council. And yes, having had first experience with the cane itself, with WeWalk, we are trying to get that introduced as an aid to the visually impaired in the city, because we've put a lot of infrastructure in which will connect to the WeWalk stick, where it will guide the vulnerable user to say where they are with a beacon embedded within a crossing point. So we are working with them and just wanted to see if we can explore that in trying to get it connected to other modes of transport, because I think that will make life easier for us. So I just wanted to endorse the WeWalk stick and the development of it.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for that, Sunil. We even saw Richard yesterday. As a bit of background here, we had the privilege of traveling up to Coventry, and the work that you guys are doing there is absolutely fantastic. I mean, especially with the pressure-activated crossings, visually impaired people around the area are lucky to have you working there. So thanks for the endorsement, and certainly we're more than happy to try to explore these collaborations as time goes on.
Brilliant. Any other questions there in the audience? Okay, I actually have a question for you, Jean-Marc. So obviously you're going into Gatwick. It's a big trial for you to bring this into an airport. But I think for a lot of people maybe watching at home or watching this back online, it'd be good to know if you're bringing an accessible solution into an airport which has quite strict operations, policies, procedures. What are some of the challenges you faced so far in doing that, and how are you overcoming that in terms of the implementation?
Yeah, you're asking the hard questions here, David.
Yeah.
Unrehearsed. No, but you're right. I think for us with WeAssist, we've moved into not just an unfamiliar territory in terms of how each of their airports will regulate and standardize themselves, but also a new set of user requirements. I mean, at an airport, as visually impaired people, we might not often behave as we would in other spaces. And this is only compounded further for people with different levels of visual impairment. So how much assistance they might need, what happens if they do need to fall back to special assistance. And then most importantly, one of the biggest challenges is how do we fit into the airport operations? Because at Gatwick, it's not like Gatwick employs its own help or special assistance agents to get that visually impaired person to the gate, but rather they rely on other subcontractors like Wilson James. So where does WeWalk fit into that? Are we supporting Wilson James to provide better special assistance? Are we competing with Wilson James? We're not, by the way, but it's just to make that clear. But it's finding where we fit in the operations, but then at the same time, considering the other moving part, the user requirements that I just mentioned, how will the user then interact with our system and the existing methods of operation? And if the user, for instance, has to fall back on special assistance, how could they do that, safely, effectively, and independently? There's also another challenge here, which is a technical challenge. Yeah. So yes, at WeAssist, we've spent a lot of time and effort making sure that the system is reliable, that if you press the button, you will be connected to an agent. Then we've got the issue of Wi-Fi dead spots in the airport, physical hazards in the airport. And what is our system actually liable for? We're liable to provide the information to the user, but we're not necessarily liable to prevent the user from walking into obstacles or detecting hazards, which they should use their cane techniques for, or their existing orientation and mobility skills for. So we're trying to find that careful balance of providing the right level of information, not stepping on the existing airport operations' toes, and in the end, just making sure the user also feels comfortable to know that if the system just doesn't work for them, they've got a method of rectifying that failure very, very quickly with the existing airport operations.
Okay. Thank you very much, John Marc. That was really great. And if anyone has any questions for John Marc, or is like what John Marc has said and wants to share that online, please do share it online and make sure to tag Connected Places Calabold and use the hashtag CPSummit24. I hope I got that hashtag right, otherwise I will be told fairly quickly by the marketing department. But John Marc, thank you so much. I wish you all the best luck with the rest of your trial, and I can't wait for you to present and tell more people about the results of that. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.